Welcome to the National Council for Hypnotherapy podcast, where we dive into the fascinating world of hypnosis, lifting the lid on hypnotherapy, sharing insights and tips for change as we chat. So sit back, relax, and enjoy all the wonderful possibilities of hypnotherapy. My name is Tracey Grist, and I will be your host today. I'm here with the lovely Lauren Kolb today, who is a hypnotherapist in private practice and a trainer of hypnotherapy. Good morning, Lauren. Nice to see you.
Good morning, and you too.
So I think, as my normal questions go, what introduced you to hypnotherapy? What made you think, hypnotherapy's for me?
Well, I came many years ago from quite a medical job where I was trained and worked with GPs. And then I wrote and delivered some form of sort of medical training, really, which I found interesting. And then once I had my first baby, I went to National Childbirth Trust classes, NCT classes. And I was asked there, it was just when hypnobirthing really was getting popular and coming over from the States. And I thought, I have a ready audience here. This was kind of an additional sort of evening job that I did. So I decided to train in hypnobirthing, but that is a franchise really, and it gives you the training in all sorts of things. The NCT I trained with thoroughly. But the hypnobirthing, I didn't need that training for the medical side, really, of birth and pregnancy. So I decided to train in a hypnotherapy just purely for that. So I went to Manchester and I did a part-time course. I did the HPD, which is also what I teach, and I really enjoyed it. And my one aim was only to use it for birth. But I enjoyed the course so much that I actually straight away went into practice doing all hypnotherapy. I did write and develop a hypnotherapy for birth program, which I did still use and develop and use many times with clients, but I also did everything else as well. So really that's what took me down the hypnotherapy route in the first place. And then after probably that was 16 years ago now, nearly 17 years ago. And eventually I quit my job that I had and became a full-time hypnotherapist.
Oh, wow. And so do you still like working with birthing hypnotherapy, or do you have other areas that you like working with?
I do work in hypnotherapy for birth still, but I would say over the years it's definitely not become my main area. I work with quite a wide variety of clients. I particularly like working with pain relief clients. I'm currently doing some research and writing some additional CPD for that. And I find it extremely effective, I think, because of the background that I came from and some of my own medical history as well, of having to deal with ongoing chronic pain sometimes. I found it a really interesting area.
Yeah. So with something like ongoing chronic pain, I think sometimes it's hard to wrap your head around that hypnotherapy can work for physical things, isn't it? And I think a lot of people associate, I'll go to hypnotherapy because I've got these emotional traumas or anxiety or depression. But we don't necessarily think, I can use hypnotherapy for pain relief or to actually target something that we've had chronically. If you had a client that came for chronic pain and they've been living with it for years and years, what would you what are the top tips if somebody's listening who's got chronic pain? What could they do at home before coming to see a practitioner? Is there anything that they could be doing?
I would say, provided obviously it's diagnosed pain, quite often they've been to the pain clinic and things like that. Anybody listening is probably quite familiar with that. Medication works definitely to some extent, but sometimes it becomes ineffective or clients have side effects. And I think chronic pain can cause quite a lot of stress and anxiety. with people. It can be hard to manage because it affects your life and it's such an ongoing thing. So I would say one of the first things that people can maybe do is accept it, accept where they are at the moment, just for what it is. And to know that even though it may be chronic and ongoing, relief can still be found, and that's not necessarily how they're going to be forever. And to work really on releasing some anxiety and some stress, because that's very counterproductive when it comes to trying to manage pain. And when it is ongoing pain like this that's known and diagnosed, it becomes okay for the brain to begin to tune it out and ignore it. So to help themselves somehow just let it go, accept it and let it go for what it is.
Okay, so rather than that holding on tight by,
Yes.
by sort of releasing, and in that way, do we release the tension in our muscles as well and the tensions that we have around it?
We do. We release all of that as well. And then hypnotherapy can help with that release of that. And also it can help with those parts of the mind that tune into pain, what is the pain? How much does it bother us? Should I be listening to it? What's it doing for me now? And in hypnotherapy, I work really with those centers of the brain, the subconscious brain, to say, it's okay actually to let this go. We know about it, with obviously an override that if the pain changes or gets worse, the client will tune into it again. But it's still used for operations. I teach hypnotherapy and I show my students quite often a video of a woman having an operation actually, and she's only having hypnotherapy for the pain relief. The hypnotherapist is in there with her. She has no local pain relief, no general anaesthetic either. And it's really interesting to see how the brain and the body deal with it.
So, and what's the hypnotherapist in the room doing? Is she putting her in a trance? What is she talking to her? How does
Yes,
it?
the hypnotherapist has worked previously with the patient to prep the client. The patient has a nice, beautiful place to go to in her mind. And the hypnotherapist is there really just to make sure that the level of trance is sufficient for the operation. The patient has a little tiny pencil and pad of paper, and she has to write down her discomfort from 0, none to 10 off the chart. And she doesn't actually know it, but if she gets to 4, they are going to give her anaesthetic. But at one point, they're drilling her bone actually, and she's still only a 2, but the hypnotherapist just takes her back down and she goes back down to 0 at that point.
Incredible. What, while they're drilling her bone? That's incredible stuff.
Yeah.
So if so there's a series of sessions that the patient will do as a client with the hypnotherapist before the operation, and then the hypnotherapist can come in to the room and work with them, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, in this case it was, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned just very briefly the special place. Can we talk about that maybe? Could it be a top tip for listeners about having a special place? How would it work?
Yes, I quite often work with my clients for a special place. It works in lots of things if we're working with trauma sometimes and things of that nature. It's really finding somewhere in your mind where you feel very safe, very secure, very comfortable emotionally and physical. It's a private space that nobody can enter unless you give them specific permission to enter that space. And I work on using all of the senses. So what can you hear there? Can you hear the sea? Can you hear the wind? Is it silent? Can you hear music? What do you feel against your skin? Is it soft? Is it smooth? Is it rough? Are you walking, sitting, lying? What can you see? Intensify the colours around you. So it's a totally immersive experience that you can take yourself to. And that helps enormously with so many things. If you've got anxiety or in an anxious situation, if you're dealing with pain issues, if you're triggered sometimes, by some trauma and you can't get any other assistance in that actual moment, And it is something that you can do for yourself, really. It can help with sleep and all sorts of things. And you just absorb yourself into it very, very completely. And you slow your body down and you slow your mind down. And it gives people a lot of sense of, I think, peace and also some control.
Yeah. And so the special place can be anywhere. Do you have a special place?
Yes, my special place is a beach because I do love beaches. So had quite a few medical things. I was having nerve tests done a few years ago, which if anybody's had those, they're quite quite
Yeah.
harsh. And I spoke to the consultant about hypnotherapy, and he had done a module in his training for hypnotherapy. And I remember going to my safe place while it was happening, and then the nurse asked me how I was doing, and I just heard him far in the background say, "She's in hypnosis. You have to leave her. She's doing well." And I so appreciated that. Yeah.
It's nice, isn't it? Yeah, I have a like a walled garden on a sort of Tibetan mountain, far away from everywhere, where
Yeah.
you go into the Zen. And I think it's really important, and that practice of being there and enjoying the peace of it. I think for my special place is very peaceful.
Yes.
Can you have a
Okay.
bit special place?
Sorry.
Can you have a busy special place, do you think?
Um, I suppose technically you could. I've never known a client who's shared their special place with me, which often clients do. I've never known it to be a busy place. I wouldn't rule it out if that's what the client needs. I think most people need a little pause, really, to press the pause button, and sometimes a peaceful place is that. I think if you were going to a happy place where you needed to be feel happy, that could be a very noisy place. For some people it could be out in a club partying and having a good time and feeling really good. I suppose it depends what you want to use the place for.
Yeah, so we could have, in essence, different places that inspire us. Sorry, that's my bear barking. We could have different places to inspire us for different times and different ways that we want to be. If we want to be confident, and I'm just letting Bear out. He's going to his special place. So if say if we wanted to, I don't know, feel confident and feel more inspired and free, could we imagine being at a club and have that as our special place, listening to our favourite music?
You could do. That's definitely possible when clients need to have maybe that more confidence or, more self-belief. I'll often ask them in hypnosis to imagine times when they've felt like that, when they've been in those situations, and it can be amalgamation of times. It can be visual if the client's visual, auditory, if they're like, if they really like that music or whatever it is they're doing. And as well as that sort of place that they can go to, I might often, give them an anchor where they can attach it onto perhaps their finger and thumb or some other thing, so that they can quickly recall it when they need to recall it, particularly if they're going into situations where they will need that, if they need to go into meetings or go and do some public speaking or go for an interview.
So should we just do a little talk through about how the anchor works with the special place? So
So the anchor is quite often done, as I say, like this. It can be done on the earlobe. Um, and I will get the client under light hypnosis
yeah.
to imagine their special place, wherever that is, whatever it needs to be for them, to bring all of their senses in, to strengthen it, and to bring the emotions in that they're wanting to feel at that moment. So if they're needing to feel very calm, very peaceful, then I will bring those in. If they need to feel confident, that level of self-belief, I'll get them to remember those times, to visualize them, to think about them, to feel it in the head, in the heart, in the body. And when it's at its most intense, I will get them to pop their fingers together or whatever anchor we've agreed, and I will set it on there and I will do some practicing, some reinforcing, and then ask them to imagine being in that situation, feeling maybe that tension or that anxiety or whatever they might feel, and then popping their fingers together again, to bring instantly those calm, confident feelings, whatever it is they need.
So the movement will remind the person of the special place and the peace and calm, and override the rising levels of anxiety or stress or worry, or and that will calm it down. Is that right?
It will, yes. And I find anchors work very, very quickly. I quite often use them. They don't work for everybody, but I found they work for a huge number of people. I quite often use them in sport, golfers who get the yips. I'll quite often anchor something on their golf club for them or something like that. I find it quite
The yips.
useful.
Sorry.
Apparently, this is what it's called. I've been calling it
Yeah,
all sorts of weird things, but apparently that's what it's called, yes, when they
yeah.
just can't do the shots anymore.
Oh, what? So they do the shots really well, and then just they can't. Is that?
Yeah, they might have a bad round or, a bad game, and it happens with professional golfers as well as kind of casual part-time golfers. And they might have been golfing in at a really high level sometimes for years. Any sport, it can happen in any sport. Sometimes I work with footballers for that as well. But once they sort of have a bad game, and they can have many bad games that don't trigger them, but this one
Yeah.
particular shot or something might, and then they begin to get that self-doubt. And obviously an awful lot of sports performance, it's not just physical, it's also mental and emotional, and then the negative pattern can set up. So as soon as they pick up that golf club, their subconscious brain remembers it, and they can really lose their game quite badly. It happens quite a lot in sports, yeah.
Okay. Well, and then they start spiraling downwards, and so bringing them back in, that anchor can be really helpful, isn't it? Just to push it the other way. I suppose you can
It
get it
is.
in class, particularly as well.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, or actually exams maybe.
Yes.
It seems that
Yes.
golf has been called the yips, but there isn't. Is there any other sport that have got like a little, do you know, a little word?
There might, not that I know of. I'm not very sporty.
No.
I mean, I run, so I use my self-hypnosis to improve my running, really. I'm not very good on any other sport, but although I do work with it a lot, I'm not, a
Yeah.
professional or anything.
No. So how do you use your self-hypnosis for running? What do you do for yourself? It's interesting.
I've used it for running and swimming because I only learned to swim when I was 50, actually. So I used a lot of self-hypnosis then. But with running, I'm not a very fast runner. I came to running fairly late in my life. I run 5K, that sort of few times a week,
Yeah.
but I'm very competitive, even against myself.
Right.
So if I don't improve like fairly consistently, I get quite tense about it, especially if I'm running with a running club or when I run with my friend who's faster than me. And I feel before I go, like, oh, how is it going to be? Am I going to perform okay today? Am I going to do my best? Am I going to run fast? You know, and that in itself, I know for a fact, slows me down. My breathing is off, my rhythm is off, my stride is off. So I use an anchor for that while I run to just bring me back down to that calm place of you can do it. You're only running. Just go with it. You know what to do. And it's a very quick way, whereas sessions of hypnotherapy really, really help. But then if a client needs it's like an additional boost, really a quick boost, then the
Yeah.
anchor is really good to suddenly bring it into focus and into place again.
So it's sort of pimping your ride, really, isn't it?
Yes, yes,
And we're off.
that's it.
That's amazing. So you train as well then. Where are you based, Lauren?
I'm based in the northwest of England in Preston. I train in Preston.
Yeah, yeah. And have you been training for a long time?
I've been training for just over 10 years.
Wow. And what do you think is like, what do you feel are the fundamentals of a hypnotherapy practice, do you know what, if somebody was looking for a good hypnotherapist, say, not that we aren't all good, obviously, what are the fundamentals that somebody should be looking for if they were wanting to find a practitioner?
I think that they should be looking for somebody who is well trained, really. Hypnotherapy, as you know, is really poorly regulated, unfortunately. Somebody can do a weekend course in hypnotherapy and then off they go and they're doing it. I would say to look at one of the larger organisations such as the NCH, which is a huge organisation. I've belonged to this organisation for 17 years. Some organisation that just checks people's qualifications, really. It has a look at how well they're trained, how they practice with a level of standards that have to be met. And that enables, I think, people to have some faith in it. It's a common problem, people coming for hypnotherapy and saying, it was a minefield out there. I went to somebody, they didn't really seem to know what they were doing. I felt unsure of it. You do need some rapport naturally with your hypnotherapist, I think, as well, to increase the efficacy of it. But I think you do need to look really, really carefully for somebody who is well trained, who is insured, who is supported, who has ongoing, continuous professional development. And for me, the NCH has always provided that, which is why when I also learnt to train, I trained under the NCH to teach as well. And my students obviously do become members.
Yeah, we're quite passionate, I think, about ethics, confidentiality, and one of the so the HPD, the hypnotherapy practitioner diploma that you teach and we advocate, covers the ethics of being in practice, which is so that people know if they're coming to a hypnotherapist, they are getting confidential treatment and it's safe. So,
absolutely.
So as a practitioner and a trainer, what do you want to do going forward, or where do your interests lie? What does that look like for Lauren?
Well, gosh, that's a big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I work with a wide variety of clients, which is good. We've talked about pain. I also work, sometimes alone or sometimes as part of a team with, with drug users or alcohol dependency, with a lot of anxiety and the usual things with habits and problems. So I want to stay, reasonably broadly based because I have a lot of experience in those things. Obviously, because I teach as well, I'm quite up to date with everything and the new research and things going on. I'm also a clinical supervisor for other hypnotherapists around the country, so that keeps me engaged. So going forward, I'm always looking for new bits of training, different things maybe that I know about, but I could know more about. So I come on lots of CPD training courses. I go down to London sometimes to the medical school down there. They run some hypnotherapy. And I'm also at the moment just moving into the area that I alluded to before, really writing some continuous professional development, writing some CPD for other hypnotherapists as well, so they can begin to specialize, such as pain relief, antenatal hypnotherapy. So I think that's really the next step for me, is just moving into that area as well, maybe expanding the reach of my hypnotherapy school, really, possibly doing some teaching a bit further afield in Manchester or Liverpool maybe.
Well, that's really exciting.
Mm.
So if you could give a top tip to somebody listening, say they were anxious or they were in pain, or what would you advise for them to do? Could you give a top tip for somebody at home? Like, we've done the special place and the anchor. Is there anything else that you could recommend before they come and see a hypnotherapist?
I think they could look into their own triggers, maybe. What makes them feel better? What seems to make them feel worse? Could anything in their lives change to improve things in that sort of way? Even small changes sometimes can help people. Obviously, the mind and the body, they like to do the same old, and sometimes we get a little bit stuck in that. So I think those things would be things to have a look at. We talked about acceptance, accepting, and also always really having hope. I think just having hope that things can change. Maybe physical things can't change, but certainly the way we feel about things can change. Our mind is the most amazing and important thing we have, and there's always hope, whether you're really anxious or you're depressed. Wherever you are, there's always hope and things can change, and to hold on to that feeling.
That's lovely. I think we don't think about hope very much, do we? Actually, I just did a little hope check in my mind when you were like, am I feeling hope? What does that look like? And even if it's like the tiniest glimmer of hope, that's really lovely. I remember watching Alan Titchmarsh on the telly, and he said plants want to grow. And I think that's such a lovely statement. You know, we want to thrive as people, don't we?
We
And
do.
I think with that comes that hope bit, actually, of knowing that we do want to thrive. Yeah, sorry, I was just on the end then. Sorry, carry on.
No, no, I think we absolutely do. I mean, that was Pandora's box, wasn't it? She let out all the furies when she opened the box, and the last thing in it when she slammed the lid shut and then opened it was hope. And I think that's really important for human beings.
Yeah, that's lovely. Well, I'm going to thank you very much for today. It's been lovely chatting and lovely getting to know you. And we'll put all the links to your training and to your practice with this recording. Thank you very much, Lauren. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. It's been lovely to chat to you today. Thank you.